Moving now to our race for State Representative District 10. This is Lincoln County north of Yachats. And first candidate to hear from this afternoon will be David Gomberg, the Democratic candidate. David?
Well, thank you, Roger, and thanks to all of you that are here and all of you that are listening.
Don't get away.
You want me to stay real close right in here? I hate to stand right behind a podium. I'm David Gomberg. I'm running for the district that now ranges all the way from Waldport up to Tillamook and inland to Sheridan. I live in Otis. My mailbox is in Niatsu. From the deck of my house, we can see Lincoln City and the lights of Chinook winds. And I'm a small business guy. Many of you have heard me tell the story before that I describe myself as a professional kite flyer. I'm a professional kite flyer. My wife and I distribute kites to stores all around the country, so we're an exporter from here in Lincoln County. We do professional shows. We've done work for Walt Disney, for motion pictures, for the Super Bowl, and also shows here in Lincoln City. And in the last couple of years, as stores started closing down here on the coast, we've started opening up stores, opening up our own retail stores like Northwest Winds, our shop down at the Dee River Wayside here in Lincoln City. So when we talk about creating jobs, I'm a candidate that actually has created jobs. For the last 25 years I've been here in Lincoln City. We have promoted the Central Coast. We have promoted the small businesses that are here. We have worked to preserve our environment and to protect and keep open our very special beaches. Now, I haven't always been a professional kite flyer. After I got my MBA at Willamette, I worked in our capital as administrator of the House Education Committee, and then spent 3 years working as an administrative law judge. I left those positions to come here to the coast and run our Central Chamber of Commerce. So I would submit to you that even though it was 30 years ago, that my experience in government will make me a better legislator, but more importantly, my deep roots in this community, I believe, will make me a better representative of all of you. So you've heard me tell the story about that I wasn't really expecting to run for office at this point in my life, and then one night the telephone rings, and the voice in legislative leadership says, David, your Representative Gene Cowan's retiring, that your name keeps coming up as a possible replacement. And my wife turned to me during this conversation and said, well, if your name's come up, they must have called an awful lot of people before they called you. But we talked about this opportunity. We talked about how it would affect our life, our business, our marriage, and we talked about the coast. We talked about the fact that life is good here for a lot of us, that we live in a remarkable place, and that all you really need to do is look out the window here to see that there's really just not a more beautiful place in the world to be. But that life isn't good for everybody here, that we've got young families that are struggling. We have seniors that are concerned about their fixed incomes and that their expenses are increasing. We have industries that feel that they are being challenged. And we send food home with kids on Fridays so they don't come to class on Monday hungry. And Susan says to me at the end of this conversation, she says, David, your whole life has prepared you for this. You've got an opportunity to make a difference. You can either step up or you can step back and they can call somebody else. And so I tell people, when your wife says it's time to step up, well, then that conversation is over with. So yes, I am running for the legislature. We're running hard, and we're running a very serious campaign. We are talking about the issues that I think are important here on the coast. We're talking about education. We're talking about job creation. We're talking about seniors. And we're talking about the environment. And it's real difficult to try and stand up here and talk about those things in just a mere 3 minutes. Let alone the 1 minute that we're given afterwards for specific questions. So what I would ask you to do is to come to my webpage. My contact information is there. Give me a call, or look at the detailed information that we have on the webpage. That address is electgomberg.com, and I would respectfully suggest to you that it's not just a web address, that it's also good advice. So elect Gomberg. Roger, let's stop here and you give me some specific questions.
First question you have, Mr. Gomberg, where do you manufacture your kites?
A good question. You know, we make kites for the mass market, for families that want to come out to the coast and have fun. And those families coming out here want to spend about $30 to $40. Every manufacturer that makes kites in that kind of environment is making their kites overseas. That's frustrating to me, that we sell kites made in China. I will tell you that 90% of the products in our store, not just the kites, but all the products in our store, come from Oregon distributors. So we're a big believer in buy local, but our kites are made overseas. Susan and I sat down to talk about this a year ago, not when I started running for office, but a year ago, and we've taken initiatives to trying to find some manufacturing opportunities where we can produce kites in the United States and offer them for sale here in Lincoln City and to other stores around the country. So the short answer, Roger, we make our kites in China like everybody else does, and we're trying very hard to change that.
Resolving the PERS financial crisis, what is the solution, or is there?
PERS. Certainly PERS is a big issue. Let's put it in context. Here in Lincoln County, there are 1,400 families receiving PERS. Average recipient is getting about $20,000 a year. Nobody's getting rich on PERS in Lincoln County or living high off the hog. Is it a big issue? Certainly it's a big issue, and you've heard the descriptions of it here tonight. I think there's specific things we can do. For example, there are recipients that have moved out of state and are still receiving a tax benefit or a benefit to offset what would be perceived to be Oregon taxes. I don't think the people that move out of state should get an Oregon tax benefit when they've left the state and they're living and spending someplace else. Some of us have read about the whole issue of spiking. Spiking is where employees at the end of their career are increasing their overtime, increasing their take-home pay so that they'll end up retiring on more money. But at the end of the process, I think that when somebody sits down and begins a career and they have an agreement, and that agreement says you work for a certain amount and you're going to get a certain benefit at the end of the process, that you don't turn around at the very end of their career and change the rules. I think a deal's a deal. And I think that that's got to be part of the context of the discussion, that we're working with people that made an agreement 25, 30 years ago, and that we have to honor those agreements while we're looking for substantive changes in the way that we administer PERS. And it's going to be a big discussion. There's going to be a lot of people be involved in solving this problem next session.
And the third and final question, David, is name an issue where you will break with your party for the good of the Oregon coast.
Well, I'm nominated, Roger, not only by the Democratic Party, but also by the Independent Party. But I'm a Democrat. I'm a coastal Democrat. Coastal Democrats are different than the Democrats that come to us from Eugene and from Corvallis and even Salem and certainly from the Portland metropolitan area. And they have split on a regular basis with folks up there. A specific kind of topic that we can talk about. In Portland, it's easy to be an environmentalist. You can talk about wave energy, you can talk about wind generation, and you can talk about putting all those things out here on the coast. Well, out here on the coast, we want to talk about new and worthwhile and important opportunities that are going to create jobs, but we also have to talk about how are they going to affect the jobs and the industries and the people that are already here. There is a balancing test to every one of these new opportunities for us, and I don't think that a lot of the legislators in the Valley see that balancing test. The Coastal Caucus, the Coastal Democrats in particular, have a history of standing up and talking about those kind of issues, and I want to be part of that conversation.
And finally, David, 1 minute of summation of your candidacy, please.
Well, thanks, Roger. A lot of you here know me, and you know that I work hard. I work hard to try and make things better. I work hard also to try and keep things from getting worse sometimes. And during the course of this campaign, we've talked about issues that are important, I think, to the coast here. We've talked about small businesses and how they generate jobs. We have talked about senior issues and how people should remain safe, secure, and independent in their own homes. We have talked about the environment, and we've talked about education, not only about K through 12, but also very importantly our community colleges and the fact that they have been getting income cuts over the last couple of years, even though their enrollments are going up. So I want to be an advocate for small businesses. I want to be an advocate for the environment and that balancing test I talked about. I want to be an advocate for seniors. I want to be an advocate for our kids and our grandkids. And I'll say right now, as I've said before, that I am supporting the Children's Trust here in Lincoln County. A really quick piece of advice for all of you: ballots are out. The sooner you return your ballot, the sooner your telephone will stop ringing and people will stop knocking on your doors. So get your ballots in, check the voters pamphlet, check my webpage, and then please check David Gomberg for state representative. Thank you all so much.